Computer. Okay. All right. Hi, it's Trevor Smith with Incline Village Realtors President, and I'm with Chris Bishop today, who is the Nevada Realtors State President, and he's in beautiful Las Vegas, probably getting warmer there now, I hope. It snowed here yesterday, Chris, so welcome to our interview, and thank you for your time. Just torture me for a second, because it's right now at my house, it's 38 degrees.
It's 66 down here. It's pretty nice. We were starting to get 90-degree weather, and it all changed in 2 days. So you can't see anything behind me, and I don't have a cool background like you do. But you know, it's pretty good time to be in Vegas. And now we're finally out checking out restaurants again and trying to get our economy up and running. So I know how you guys are dealing with that up north, and
yeah,
here.
So there's a few things I wanted to cover with you, Chris. You know, as the state president, a lot of our membership, I don't think, knows what you do, right? What your responsibilities are. And, you know, maybe we can just start there with a general description of what that means.
Sure. Yeah, state president is an interesting position. So of course, to be state president, you must have been a local association president at some point. So I was the Las Vegas Realtors President a few years ago. You know, the local association presidents are so important because they're the communication piece of the entire association, and you've been doing an amazing job with these videos and getting the information out there. But I think that the idea is that is the boots on the ground type setup, where the average agent, the average realtor that's dealing with issues in their marketplace, they're going to be connected to their local association president. And then the state association does exactly what it says, state issues. So we look at the state legislature, we look at commonalities between the north and the south of the state, things that they're dealing with that we could help, you know, the large group of membership together create better value for all members. And so we have about 18,000 members throughout the state of Nevada. As state president, I'm kind of like the Queen of England, don't really do a whole lot in the grand scheme of the day-to-day operations of the association, because it's run by our incredible CEO, Teresa. But I have the privilege of running our state board meetings. I'm the first president in the history of our association that's ever, number one, I've not had a board meeting yet this year because of the whole COVID crisis, but I will be the first president to host one by Zoom. We've never had a virtual setup board meetings. It's going to be pretty cool and interesting in some ways and different in others. My year as state president is unprecedented. It's never happened this way, where we don't have the NAR travel, and that's a big role of state president, is to represent Nevada and all of its issues and its members at the national meetings. And I'm the primary state delegate. So they have a thing called the delegate body at NAR, and anytime a major policy is going to go through, anytime they're selling off an asset. We all remember Realtor.com and when that was sold, or acquiring products like DocuSign and things like that. The delegate body is actually the group that makes those final decisions. And so I've been part of delegate bodies as a local president, because the local presidents also vote for their membership numbers at those bodies. But it's kind of interesting. It's the, you know, information behind it all. And I mean, with all of that, my best part is that I get to tour around the state and, you know, support all the local presidents on their issues. It's more compiling information and seeing what value we can provide on a state level. The state does not provide MLS services, so our entire income for the state comes from the $200 dues billing that we do for the state dues that are collected from your local association. And so we provide all the state services off of that amount of money, which is pretty incredible, the amount that we do versus the costs that you incur. And so the other thing that's really cool about the state is we are the legislative arm, and we provide a lot of support and safety services and support with legislative items that would take money out of your pocketbook. So I think dollar for dollar, your state dues are providing you a huge benefit. If you think about the sales tax on services that we've fought off, if you think about bad tax policies, and I just recorded a video yesterday. We believe that every bad policy that was coming out us over the last 20 years will be coming back. And it's important now more than ever that you vote, because your vote is the only defense that we have to tell legislators that you're going to pay attention. So yeah, that's in a nutshell, state president.
Well, and one of the other services you guys provide, which we don't want to miss, and I'm sure Tiffany would be thrilled if she was sitting here, is legal advice,
Yes.
right? I mean, and obviously it's not legal advice like calling your attorney, but it's at least we have a team of attorneys that will help us with the legal answer line.
The
And
nice thing is
obviously,
the legal hotline provides it kind of as a state focus. So state laws, we all are dealing with those. But when you get down to regional issues and local municipalities, it's pretty cool to have Tiffany and her team that are keeping their ear to the ground, and they hear everything that's going on. And every time the governor comes out with a new phase or a new executive order, she's digesting it. During our legislative session, our legal group does an amazing job because they literally review every bill. So think of hundreds, if not 600 or 700 bills that they're tracking, that they're looking at how legally it will affect real estate. And when you call up, they'll be able to help you with your issues as best they can. And sometimes they're therapists and sometimes they're legal advisors.
and then you also have committees that you appoint people to. Tell me, because I know most of them, I think, but for the benefit of our viewers, what committees are there and what are they doing?
Sure. So the state's a little different. I mean, at the local level, that's like the first point of entry for a member to get involved. And I think when it comes to the state committees, you'll usually see a few more experienced members because they're looking at bigger picture items, and it's reps from different areas of the state that are coming together. We have a communications committee. We have a global committee. I know the global committee has been actually meeting this year by Zoom, which is different than they've done before. They've been bringing in speakers and a lot of value for that. Those are things that members could take part in. Our biggest arm of committees is our legislative committee and our political committees, because they spend a lot of time reviewing, like I said, bills that come up and looking at state issues that we need to get ahead of and be cognizant of. I don't actually appoint it, but one of our largest groups is our state PAC. And the PACs, who are run by Bob Hamrick from Las Vegas, do an amazing job of vetting candidates that are looking at realtor issues, and they're looking at how a certain candidate is going to vote either in support of private property rights or what their track record has been before we support them or give them any money. And so they just finished their rounds of interviews, which are pretty taxing. I mean, they put these candidates through 30-40 minutes of grilling questions about real estate and their track record with real estate and how they've worked in the past. And so that's probably one of the major benefits we provide, is those political sides. And then, we have committees on multiple other items. We have PAGs that are formed. I just formed a property management PAG to look at how the landlord-tenant issues that are coming up because of the, freeze on evictions and the forbearances, and how those are going to work for landlords that, didn't receive any income, so now they can't make their payment. And so, have the flexibility to put things together as needed. But the state only has about 6-7 committees that they actually keep on year round.
Interesting. So, and I know you have a convention committee. We'll see if that happens. I guess my wife's on that one. At least I think she is anyway.
Well, of course, you have the fun ones like bylaws and finance. We have a great group of people that for years, and it does take a little bit of time to get up on these because you're looking at the financial performance for the state, our investments, bylaws. I think your wife is chair of bylaws, I think she is chair of bylaws. And bylaws is one of those groups that it provides a lot of information, but sometimes if we're not changing anything, they don't have a lot to talk about. And so, but I do have a convention committee. We have our state convention that was brought back a few years ago. I was extremely excited to be hosting mine up north in Lake Tahoe, in Incline Village. I thought that was going to be an amazing event. It still will, but it won't be the same event that I originally planned out. I think it'll have more of a Zoom type mentality and less people in person. And so hopefully all of the agents up there in Lake Tahoe will get the opportunity to engage and be able to, leave their backyard and be right there at the event. But I just love the scenery up there. I love the atmosphere. It's going to be a great place to have the convention.
So, and I know that one of NAR's goals, and you may or may not know this actually, I have an interview coming up with Vince Malta, I think it's next week. One of the goals that NAR has is to, feel more connected, and I don't know exactly what they call it, but it's outreach or what have you with the local associations. And obviously that's very difficult, but obviously you're a conduit, obviously, for Nevada, for all of these boards, right? And you know, I wanted to start by saying you've done a great job. Considering the circumstances, you know, this will be the anomaly, right? For every presidency, whether it's local or state or whatever, it's like, you know, good luck getting anything done. It's, you know, you're trying to actually do damage control and keep the fire from spreading. And, you know, I want to compliment you. You've done an excellent job on that. And, you know, I think we're all here for a reason at the right time, right? I mean, if you had someone that was weaker, this whole thing could just collapse and you'd have a mess. But what, you know, I mean, I know you have tons of challenges, right, with COVID, and, you know, you're heavily involved in what the governor's doing and the directives and all that stuff. I mean, tell me, you know, your thoughts on what the challenges are right now. Obviously, we're trying to get to a point where we can reopen a little bit, you know, there's a lot of debates going on, right?
Yeah. So I think to your question, thank you. It's different. If you don't know, both my mom and my dad have been state presidents for Nevada. And so it's kind of interesting being around our Thanksgiving table when we talk about association issues versus the family and things like that. But so both my parents experienced what it was like to be state president and the things that they would do in a regular year. And mine has been completely the opposite. None of the things that they've done or did are on my agenda. And it's because of this new normal that we're all living. And I hate to use that word, the new normal, because it upsets some people, but life has changed forever. And I think that the number one challenge that the majority of our realtors are going to experience is that they're going to have to communicate in a different way. And I think that just like you and I are having this meeting, a year ago, we probably wouldn't have used this as our primary source of communication, but how easy it is. Right? How easy it is to sit down and have this conversation with each other. It feels normal now. It feels easy to do. And I think the other thing I've noticed is that it's been easier for people to embrace this because they don't have a choice.
Right.
I think that that's probably going to be an adjustment period for a lot of people. As far as, you know, the issues with the state, you're right. I can't take any credit for it. Teresa McKee and our lobbying team at Carrera, I mean, they literally at step one, as soon as this all came out, jumped right on the bandwagon, and we worked together to maintain real estate as an essential business. And I think that goes back to the fact that we have spent decades building an amazing political machine that understands the state issues. They have a great working knowledge of our state government. They have a lot of relationships that we built, and we built that because of the working together of our PACs and our legislative committee and our members, and those dollars that you give as your fair share have made all of that possible. So if anyone that you know has transacted a real estate deal in the last 2.5 months, they need to look to someone with that pin on their side, the RPAC pin, and say thank you, because those dollars made that happen. There are states right now in my state president meetings where they are still not essential. They have not been able to transact business for 2.5 months, and it may take a year for their market to even come back. And you can imagine that in our business, you don't receive a paycheck every 2 weeks. And if you're not able to sell houses or communicate or prospect in any way, you're out of business. And it's months to get back into production. And so I think that that's, you know, the biggest issue that we'll have there. You know, the governor's office has been good with communicating with us. Usually when it has to do with real estate, either at the governor's office of AG, they give a call to our lobbying team or to Teresa. Hey, we're going to bring this out. We want to see what you guys think of it and how should we word it. Tiffany, that you just talked about, has done an amazing job of putting together verbiage that protects, you know, the agent, the buyer and the seller, the landlord and the tenant, because, you know, we're not on one side or the other. We make business from all of them, and we just want to make sure it's fair. And so being at the table is probably the most important thing. The other things, you know, you talked about Vince, and Vince, imagine running the state virtually. He's running the entire operations of NAR, and he just conducted the first ever virtual convention that we all took part in. And I think that while a lot of people complained it wasn't the touchy-feely and we didn't get to see each other and have a great time, I think for time management wise, it was fantastic. I could see what I want when I wanted it. It was easy to go back and play back the recordings. We conducted a board meeting of 900 board members through Zoom. The average meeting lasts probably about 4 hours. This one lasted 2. So I loved all of that.
Yeah.
And I think that when we ask people to get involved and serve on our association leaderships, you know, they always make the joke, it's just one meeting a month that lasts for 3 days. But I think that now with this virtual atmosphere, we really can say that it does work for your time and schedule. And it's time to get involved. I think
Yeah.
involvement is something else that we will have to learn how to get to members easier. I think that the conversation around my state convention and having a Zoom factor with it makes sense because I can have 500 or 600 members participate at home while having 100 or 200 participate in person. It just makes more sense.
Yeah. Well, I think, considering the circumstances, Chris, you've done a great job. I think, we're very thankful. I can't say enough good things about Carrera, Nevada, and our lobbying team. They're awesome. Heather Lunsford, our GAD, is amazing. And, anyone that says anything different, I want to take them out in the parking lot and beat them. But,
well, I also got to give a lot of credit, Trevor, to my executive team because you got to imagine that there is no playbook for this, right? I mean, that's
right.
the statement everyone's been making, and we all had to kind of work our way through it. And I think you said it right. I'm not upset at all that my year wasn't what it could have been. My year was something different, and I think that I embraced the change and the technology, and I was open to suggestions. And I think that's what a president has to do right now, is be open to keeping the business going. And I think that everything works out for a reason. And I think that we're all here. I've noticed all the local presidents, and I got to give a huge acknowledgement to you. Doing these videos and communicating in a way that wasn't done before is pretty impressive. And it's impressive because none of us get paid for this. There's no paychecks. There's no benefits. We take time out of our day. I'm running a brokerage and my own team and all of my agents and dealing with that and supporting the state. And so what's amazing about this is that all of these people that we have in leadership, and there's about 50 of us in the state, between the local presidents and your boards and the state board and the state executive group, that are giving of their time freely, and a lot of it to keep our industry moving. And I think that's what's so incredible about what it is to be part of the Realtor family. And we're not able to enjoy a cocktail and sit out on that beautiful lake that's behind you. But the fact is, that's just secondary. Everything that we're doing is for the members and to keep our business progressing. Funny enough, I just had a listing presentation yesterday on Zoom. And so presented all the facts of the home and the marketing and the conversation and the documents, and the client's looking at me through a camera and I'm looking at them, and we're having a conversation back and forth, and I'm showing them what their home looks like on the MLS, and I'm showing them what it looks like on secondary websites. And that's been around for years, but as a standard of practice, it's not something that we did, and now it's become normal and kind of cool.
Well, and it's funny in my market, where obviously second homes, a lot of times we never even see our clients, right? We never meet them. And I'm probably going to do my first Zoom listing presentation today, whereas normally I might just do it over the phone. But because we're now I don't know how many hours I have logged in Zoom, but I'm sure it's several hundred, if not 1,000, doing these interviews.
Yeah,
it's second nature. And I think a lot of people, even versus FaceTime, this is very different, right? And I have a listing coming up that has 4 parties that are involved. 4 signers. So Zoom is a perfect way to do it, because I was never going to get them here together. That's not going to happen. So it is interesting how things shift.
It's really crazy. My cell phone has limited service at my home, but my internet works perfectly. So I can hear you and you can hear me, and the conversation flows really well on Zoom. But yet when I get you on my phone, I'll drop the call or problems happen. I sat on a phone conference. I couldn't remember what those meant last week for a national meeting that we're having, and it was horrible. You couldn't hear people very well. They were talking over one another. Zoom does a great job, and any of these virtual platforms do a great job of being able to present the information in a way that allows the back and forth. Biggest problem I see realtors having is social people. And, for years, it's about the social interaction. I think a lot of them are in a depression because they're not out talking with people. And I've heard that from members all across the state, is get me out of this house. I've got to get out and be there and be in my office. And so I think the biggest thing I would want to stress to all members is that, even though we're still in a phased shutdown, we will have to be cognizant for the next year or longer about COVID-19 restrictions and about making sure that we're mitigating risk for our clients. And you're going to see a number of things come out from us talking about that. Best practices for you, best practices for your brokerage, interaction with a client. Should I do an open house, and how would it be done, and the way to keep everyone safe? And I think that that's going to be a big change for people as well.
No doubt. Let me ask you a totally different question. You may know that my entire family's in the business just like yours, and we have 23 licensees in the last count, and I probably have to check and see if there's more kids that got their license since then. And it might actually be 24 now that I think about it. My brother's son just got his license, started working with him. But my dad always said, my dad's been a broker forever, right? He's just turned 80, and so he's been a broker for longer than I've been alive, right? So he's got 50 something years in the business, which doesn't mean anything, but when I told him I was going to be president of Incline Village Realtors, he said, "Oh, say goodbye to your business," right? And I said, "You know what? Just because you said that, I'm going to prove you wrong." Let me ask you, how has this affected your business? I mean, you've changed companies, you told me recently, and so you've got kind of a different operation going on now. How is that? How are things for your business? How have you balance this? Because that's the other challenge too, right? We're volunteers, like you said. So there's a lot of time that you're not working. You're working for the board, you're working for realtors, but you're not working for your business.
So I think on anything you put into it, out of it, right? And so I have an interesting perspective. Like, again, I saw my parents go through this, and I saw how it affected their family, of giving the time and energy, and now I'm going through this. And so it kind of gave me an interesting reflection. Number one, if you're engaging with those agents around the nation, these aren't, brand new people. These are company owners. These are top producers. They see the value of being at the table. And I love that saying, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And I think that I decided when I got into this business that this was going to be my career for life. And whether it was going to work out that way and I could survive, that was a different story. But that was my intention. And I figured that if it was my intention to be a realtor forever and build my income off of it, my family, and my growth, then I needed to be involved in my industry. And so that's one of the reasons why I got involved. The other reason was my mother said I had to get on a committee, and I didn't have a choice. And she pushed me into that. But the engagement with the agents that I worked with on those committees, the agents that I've met across the nation, from a referral basis alone, I've received referrals from people all around the country. And when someone comes into my office and says, "Oh, I need an agent in Nashville, Tennessee," I can pick up my phone and call an agent in Nashville, Tennessee in a second and say, "Hey, I have a client for you. Can you take good care of them? We'll report back how it's going." That by itself is fantastic, because you think an agent in their business, they're always looking for that. The other side of it is engagement with other people that I'm in the industry with. One of the things that bothers me the most about our industry is we have lost the ability to communicate with each other in a good way. I mean, I hear just so many nasty things come out of people's mouths anymore. And you're doing a transaction where everyone's getting paid and people are happy, and the buyer and seller, and the agent on the other side is upset, and they want to just negotiate and haggle and be nasty about it. Why would you do that? I mean, what industry would do that? And so what being involved at the board has allowed me is that I know probably every major broker in my marketplace on a first name basis. And if it wasn't for the board, I don't know that'd be true. And I know a lot of their agents because of the deals that we've done and seeing each other at the association and going to the installations and the events. And so that's been fantastic. And then what's also kind of cool is as you move through the leadership and you compile your information and your knowledge of the marketplace and the state and how the laws came out and how the forms are written in the background behind them, it really helps you be able to explain to your client the value of your service and the value of the Realtor Service and what we stand for. And I think that a simple explanation is you have a duties owed to a client, and because of your involvement in the classes you attended and the political information you've gotten, you can explain how the document came to be and why we need to disclose our duties to all parties and why it's in the state law and why legislators think that's important. Well, just as a learning piece, that's huge. And then, the last thing I'll say is that I've done a lot of interviews like this of information. You ever have that client that just doesn't believe that what you're saying is the truth? And then they pick up the paper and you're the one that wrote the article with them. And they're like, "Hey, so other people think I actually know what I'm talking about too." It does build a knowledge of the business that helps you do the business. And I think that those are all good reasons to get involved. And I think that, you always need to have something to talk to the consumer about, a way to send the message, and you're getting constant information from being involved with the association.
So let's talk about the future, maybe the
Yep.
near future. So where are things going, and when do you think that's going to happen as far as, let's say the release of realtors into the wild, I guess would be one question, but where do you see this and what do you think the timing is?
I'm very optimistic. I always have been. I think that in our industry, if you're not, you're going to be very hard on yourself and on the business. I mean, we live in a world where we don't receive a paycheck, and it's based on, even if I do everything right and it's all perfect, at the end of the day, that deal could still cancel. And so if you're not a glass half full type person, it's a difficult business. But I've just seen so many things that I think are different in Nevada than other states. And I'll give you some examples. It used to be that casinos were the only industry in our state. And shutting down the casinos would have meant that we should have all just gotten our cars and vacated Nevada. And we've seen the local municipality leaderships and our mayors and our governors that have shifted the dynamic of what our state relies on. We've seen a lot of business and industry come on from different corporations. And so it's not just casinos anymore or mining. And I think that, we're all in this recovery together. But at the end of the day, if I've been trapped in my home for 2.5 months with my kids and with my wife, then I think, where are we going to go when this all opens up? I've got to believe in my mind, and I know others do, that they're saying, we got to go to Vegas. I can just see the movie now, of everyone leaving that snowy climate back east and heading out to Vegas to come and enjoy the restaurants and Reno and coming to the lake. And, it just makes sense to me. And I think that with all of that is that, even though we were moving up in pricing throughout the state, we were still extremely reasonable compared to some of our neighboring states. The tax structure in Nevada is still extremely reasonable compared to other neighboring states. And I think that, number one, we need to do everything we can to protect that. Because if we are going to recover from this, we've got to make sure that we remain a pro-business state. I don't care what side of the aisle you vote on, but if we don't have jobs, we won't have a market. And so getting people back to work, which is already starting to happen, is important. And it's important because when they don't have an income, it doesn't matter what we do, right? But I also think that market cycles are important. And I know that, there's a funny saying that was on major agent down here on his desk. It said, dear Lord, please give me one more great real estate cycle, and I promise not to, piddle it all away. And I think that that's the point. This is an opportunity for change. And I think that in those changes, people make money. And so I don't see anyone fire selling their properties. I don't see anyone, basically just giving things away. And as long as we can get the economy up and running and these phases move through as soon as possible, I think Vegas and Reno and the rest of the state will have a good recovery.
Well, Chris, you send a positive message. You're doing a great job as a member of the Nevada Association and as a president of Incline Village Realtors. We thank you for your service. And so your company is Signature Real Estate Group. Is that the broker's name? Okay, that's so we're going to leave your contact information in there, your email, your website, etc. You're probably on YouTube more than I am, but and I look forward to your next appearance. But I want to thank you for your time. I appreciate you setting this up, and maybe we can do it again. Maybe after we do, maybe we could do a combo one with state leadership and maybe some of the national leaders. We'll see what Vince Malta's up to next week. And but I really appreciate your time and thank you for the opportunity. And look forward to doing it again. And maybe the convention in Tahoe. We'll see.
Hey, don't forget, it'll be the first couple of days in September is the plan for right now. And so the benefit is your members there in Lake Tahoe will get first dibs. And I know we have a lot planned around seeing your beautiful city in Incline Village. And so looking forward to seeing you guys all there.
Thanks again.
Thanks.